Well, hello again. So, welcome to Course 3, Disputes, Settlements, and Lawsuits. This is a 5-part course called How to Fix Your Credit Free. You can find the course list at autumnlee.online, or you can view the video presentations, which are all downloadable, by visiting autumnleesnews.com and going to the live page. All right, so let's get started. So today we're discussing disputes, settlements, and lawsuits. When initiating a dispute, which is something that we've talked about in the last couple of classes, and we're going to be going over that in quite a bit more detail today. I'm going to be showing you some online templates, kind of walking you through some best practices. When initiating a dispute, you're requesting validation of a debt. So this means that you are asking the creditor to substantiate the debt that is being reported on your credit report. The creditor usually has 30 days to respond. You can also specify this date in your letter to them in the dispute letter, but it is typical to allow a 30-day response time. That's, the standard. So 30 days they have to research, to gather together the substantiating documentation, what evidence they have, and send it to you. Essentially, what they're doing is they're preparing a packet for court. They would send you what they would be sending to the court. So you're going to get that debt validation package within 30 days if it's a valid debt. You can also, like I said, specify the date in your letter, but just give them 30 days. You can, write that down if you want to, but you don't need to. You can use an online letter template to initiate your disputes. Just remember to replace the default information, including your personal information instead. During this time that the debt's being disputed, the debt actually disappears from your credit report and sometimes can stay off for up to 90 days while the dispute investigation is being conducted. So this has immediate benefits to your credit score. It's generally a good time to try and apply for an apartment or an auto loan. So kind of a hack. And I'm not recommending that you do this because if you initiate disputes on valid debts, you can, but if you do it and you don't close it, you're putting yourself at a higher risk of actually being sued because, like I just said, if you're going to dispute a debt, you're asking for that debt to be validated. So what your creditor is going to do with that time, that 30-day time frame that you've given them, is they're going to basically compile a case against you. That's what you're asking for. But it's the 30 days that you're needing the time, to boost your score, to maybe get into an apartment, get yourself a car, do what you need to do with that credit score boost. Because once you have that debt removed from your credit score, it no longer brings it down. So that's one little hack to kind of get your credit score up to a place, for something small like an apartment or a car, a used car or something, not like a home. That's completely different. But anyway, so while the dispute investigation is being conducted, the debt's not going to show up on your credit report, so it's not going to impact your score. Great time to go out and apply for an apartment, apply for an auto loan, maybe even a credit card. It's a great time to do it. So credit scoring is kind of funny in the way it's figured up. There are many different factors and variables that go into what makes up your personal credit score. And when you pull your reports, you may notice that you have multiple different credit scores. This is for a few reasons. Most credit scoring models start at about 500 and go up to 800, but TransUnion starts at 300 and 350. So your TransUnion score might be slightly lower because of this, because it's a larger scale. It starts at 300 instead of 500. Factors that go into how your score is determined include your debt utilization ratio, which your debt utilization ratio is the amount of debt that, that you have in relation to the amount of credit that you have. And what kind of scoring model is being used, other factors, all of that goes into factor or figuring out what your credit score is. So your Vantage score is not your real credit score. Like what you see on Credit Karma, that's not a real credit score. That's like, it's like an image of what your credit score was a month ago. That's what your Vantage score is essentially. This is, like I said, usually what you'll see on Credit Karma, and it is a good way to gauge what apartment complexes or auto dealers might look at to make lending decisions or rental decisions. But again, if you're trying to buy a house, for instance, mortgage lenders look at your FICO score. Your FICO score is the most accurate of all your credit scores. So that's going to be at myfico.com. That's what like mortgage lenders are going to look at if you're trying to apply to buy a home. There are actually different types of credit scores that different types of lending entities look at. We're not going to get into all that. But basically, I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what goes into the makeup of your credit score. Another factor that goes into how your credit score is calculated is the length of time that you've had credit. So if you've had a credit card for 15 years and you've always been on time with the payments, that is going to have a major impact on your credit score, a positive impact on your credit score, even if you happen to go into default with one or two of your other consumer debt accounts. So there's that. Let's see. Now, credit mix is whatever your credit mix is, that's something else that'll go into factoring what your credit score actually ends up being as well. Your credit mix is the ratio of installment loans to revolving credit. So say, for instance, you've got student loans and credit cards. Like if you have 5 student loans, 5 credit cards, that's a good mix. Usually it typically, the way it works out, actually, that's not really a good mix now that I think about it. The way it typically works out for most Americans is you'll have like 2 revolving credit accounts for every 1 installment loan. That's more common, unless of course you have a lot of student loans. But if you do, you can always consolidate into, one, but that's something else. Anyway, so that's kind of a short explanation of your credit scoring. Your debt utilization ratio, your credit utilization ratio, your length of credit, credit mix. Yeah, so that's what goes into it. Let's move on to negotiating settlements. So now that you've gotten to the point where you've disputed some debts, maybe you've received validation of these debts, and you're ready to start making settlement offers. You're ready to start considering paying off these debts. So when you attempt to settle with a creditor, you'll want to leave yourself plenty of room to negotiate. Start small and work your way up. A lot of creditors might not be willing to take your first offer or any offer you make. That's always a possibility. Don't stop trying. See what they're offering you. They're going to make you an offer too because they want to get paid. So see what they're offering you. It's a constant negotiation until you can reach an agreement on payments, time frame, and what you get when you've paid off the debt. It's not unheard of to ask the creditor to change the way the debt is reported after you've satisfied it. And they usually will once a settlement has been reached. However, if you can negotiate a removal for a compliance offer or pay for a delete offer with your credit card or with your creditor, that means they'll stop reporting the debt altogether if it's paid, which is great. These are rare settlements, but it is worth trying for it because it'll have the most positive impact on your credit score. Even if you can't do this, a settlement is better. It looks better on your credit score than having an account in collections. So having a settlement on your credit report, on an account that was formerly being reported as being in collections indicates closure. So it indicates stability. If you're trying to apply for a new credit, creditors will see that and it'll reflect positively. All right. So finally, going into lawsuits, and we talked a little bit about process servers last time. I mean, a lawsuit is just essentially another step in the debt collection process. It's scary to imagine yourself being sued. It's scary to be sued, but it's just another step in the debt collection process. Is all it is. If you are sued and you don't owe many creditors, you can contact the creditor that is suing you to try and negotiate a settlement. Often they'll have you sign an offer in compromise that allows them to bypass the courts and seek a default judgment if you do not meet your obligations. So make sure to fulfill your obligations of your settlement. You could also wait for the case to get dismissed for lack of service, and then the creditor will only bring it up again when they know where you're living or working. That's not really advisable. Um, yeah, if you like, say for instance, you're smart and you know you're in debt and something tells you to just check and see if there are any lawsuits pending. You can do that. It's usually public information. Go to your court or your city or county's page online to look up pending court cases, type in your name and see if you've got anything there. And you can kind of find out if you've got anybody suing you. You may have to, go to different websites to confirm everything, but yeah, you can find out if you have a pending court case. You could wait for them to not be able to serve you and, then it'll go away for a little while, but that's not a good thing to do. It is an option though. To stop wage garnishments, bank account levies, or evictions, you must file bankruptcy. Once you've filed bankruptcy, all collection activity stops immediately. Done. So if say you're being evicted from an apartment, you can file bankruptcy and they have to stop the proceedings. I don't know how that works after the bankruptcy is discharged, though. I wouldn't recommend it, but I know that that is possible. Once you have filed bankruptcy, no matter where you are in the life cycle of debt collection, everything stops. Everything stops. So that's why I'm saying, like, you don't want to use that as like your ace in your back pocket because you can only do it like twice in your life. So, but just so you know, that's what happens. All right. So thank you for tuning in. Next course 4 goes over bankruptcy and insolvency. That's going to be a really long one. But I hope you tune in and thanks for watching.